Hello and welcome to the Ruth MacFit Podcast. Very, very happy to be here with you today with a slightly cold cup of tea as well. But I'm very glad that you're joining me because I think this is an episode for any of you that feel like you're waiting for life to calm down before you can fully get started into something, whether that's healthy habits, fitness, or back into routine and so on. But let's be honest, if you're like me, we can wait for calm, but we'd be waiting forever. So before I get going on that, a little catch up for those of you that don't follow me on Instagram. I have got back from Copenhagen recently. I went with Claire, who is a friend, used to work with her as a coach, and I had two missions. Mission one was to make sure that Claire enjoyed it so much that she would want to do it again. And I'm proud to say that that is mission accomplished. She is very much wanting to do it again. And the other mission I had was to make sure that I tackled those dreaded wall balls that went so wrong when I was in Paris doing solos. And again, mission accomplished. I felt great doing those. And I feel like I can go into my next High Rocks confident about the wall balls, at least, if nothing else. And we had a great trip, like such a good time away, really milked it. It was a short event, but we went away for 5 days. And I don't know about you, but you come back home, you're feeling proud of yourself, relaxed, strong, and then you walk through that door and then within seconds, it's like, boom, there's reality. And for me, loads of washing. There was work that I needed to get on and do. They can do so much work on your laptop, but there's certain things I can only do on my computer. And then I had an appointment the next day at my son's school with the Senko about his autism. And then because, life just adds in a little bit more, my husband then got ill. He got this stinking cold and then I got it, but it lasted, thankfully, less than 24 hours. It was random. I've never had a cold like it. Actually, I was filming a recipe reel for Instagram and I started off at the beginning of it, filming it fine, goes in the oven for like 2 hours or something. I came back to get out of the oven and the end of the video's got me with my face streaming. So I'm going to be editing that and hoping that that goes okay. But really, what I wanted to say is that this is a good reminder that chaos is part of life. And if we don't learn to work with it, we end up staying in a cycle of waiting. And even just taking the pressure off a little bit there can have us feeling a bit calmer. So what I want you to remember is a good way to approach life is to not plan for the calm, but instead plan for chaos. If you are constantly thinking, I'm going to get back on track when life slows down, I think the truth is you're going to be waiting a very long time. Yes, there will be points that will feel calmer, but I don't know about you, they don't tend to last very long before something gets thrown your way. I think at this stage of life, this midlife period, we can be busy at work. We have kids often, family members wanting things from us, and it just feels like you can end up chasing your tail. And then if you got the perimenopause symptoms as well, then the hormones aren't going to be helping. So yeah. And then if like us, dog will break a foot or random things like that just happen. Like what? But there is something that can help us. And that's the systems and habits that we put in place that help us no matter what is going on. Things that we can manage even when life is crazy and chaotic. These aren't things that slow your progress down. It's not like you're going, that's it, I can't do that, so I'm giving up. These are things that actually long-term are going to make progress faster because they'll keep you consistent when life is a bit messy. Now, I want to talk to you firstly about one of these things for me that is like happens in life, I have an evening routine. Those of you that have followed me for a while, listened to the podcast, know that I talk about this a lot. It's because it is the thing that makes me feel calmer going into the next day. But even within this, I think it's really good to be clear that there are things that I will manage more when I'm calmer, life is quiet. But when life is busy, I still do it, but maybe in a slightly different way. So I'll have a non-negotiable of getting my tea ready for the following morning. I have one of those tea, I've had it for years, but a tea kind of infuser. I have loose leaf tea, it goes in a little basket, and then it turns itself on in the morning. It's like an old Teasmade, but a little bit higher end in the sense that it keeps it warm, it dips it in, does it for like 4 minutes, whatever the brew time is, and then lifts it out. Anyway, I could talk about that all day. But I get that ready so that in the next morning when I come down, it's there for me. But I'll also write down a couple of gratitude points, and then I'll put my phone on charge and leave it downstairs. That is what I manage. It's not very much, getting that tea ready, writing down a couple of points and leaving my phone downstairs. I manage that when life is crazy. My optimal version would have me making sure I've got breakfast and lunch ready for the next day, my clothes laid out. I'll journal a little bit more detail, and I'll do like a full-on skincare routine before bed, and maybe even a little stretch before bed as well. But even if I don't hit that optimal end of the range, I can always hit that minimum, or even somewhere in between. And the teapot bit for me is actually not just about making the tea for the morning. It acts as this kind of transition into the evening for me, this switch. I've finished dinner, I've done some washing up, and I do it then, because then it's almost transitioning me into that winding down feeling. And also it's just a sign that I'm doing something that I know makes me feel good. And it's all about being consistent with habits. This keeps us going no matter what's going on around us. And in fact, I was chatting to a client this morning who had always traditionally struggled with movement, and she started getting up in the morning and just walking on her treadmill. I think to begin with, she committed to doing like 5-10 minutes, but she said she's doing half an hour every morning. She puts on a podcast, but she said she just doesn't think about it anymore. It just feels like part of life. Now, that isn't going to be something that everyone manages, because your life is different, but that has become so easy for her now, which is great. And because it's in the morning, it's getting her going for the day, so she's feeling good for the rest of her day. These are the habits that can just help you stay on track. And I think the way of wording this that will help is kind of if and then planning. It's sort of like having a plan A and plan B, but it's not, the plan B isn't your, oh, well, I can just give up until then. It's, if I don't have time for a full workout, then I'm just going to do 10 minutes of movement. I'm going to do something, because doing something is always going to be better than nothing. That might be you're just going to do one round of your workout, or you're going to go for a 10-minute walk instead because you're running out of time, or you're going to set the timer for the 10 minutes you have and do as much as you can. And that is okay. It might be that if you don't have time to make a full breakfast, then it's not optimal, but it's a now and again thing. You're not going to skip breakfast entirely. You might just grab a protein shake or a Pro-Yo and a banana. And that's fine, because it's got you thinking about your nutrition still. You're still having something. And on other days, yeah, you'd have something that is perhaps a bit more filling, it's got a few more nutrients in it, but that's okay. If I feel overwhelmed at the end of the day, then I'll do my non-negotiable evening routine instead of skipping it completely. So there aren't fallback options that mean you're failing. They're plans that allow us to continue moving forward even when things are chaotic. We're still focusing on what we can do, and we're being kind to ourselves. But kindness doesn't mean giving up, right? It just keeps us going, doing what we can. And when clients come to me, and this is something that I find really helpful for that all or nothing thinking for those busier days, is I set them ranges with calories and steps. So I've mentioned a range with my evening routine with that optimal and non-negotiable side there, but I set them ranges with calories and steps with the same thing in mind. So a calorie range, for example, we have the lower end being a greater deficit, kind of really where you'd like to average during the week. But that higher end of the range is going to be closer to maintenance. And that gives you some flexibility without feeling overly restricted. It's not like I've gone over my calories, so that's it, I've messed up. You know that actually over the course of the week, you could still well be in a deficit. And it might be that you go a fraction lower than that, not too low, because over restriction does tend to lead to overeating. But if you go a little bit lower, then it can give you a bit more food freedom at the weekend when you might be eating just a little bit more. Maybe you've got a meal out and so on. And the same with steps. We have the lower end of the steps would be your non-negotiable. It's what you can manage when life's busy. And what that's set at depends on what you're kind of getting more easily when you start. And then we have the optimal end, which is what you strive for as much as you can, but you don't feel like you failed if you're getting the lower end of the range. That is there for those super busy days, and then you can try and push for that optimal and increase your average overall. And then with workouts, your non-negotiable I've mentioned might be doing one set or one round of an exercise. and your optimal will be doing the full workout. But this approach definitely removes that all or nothing thinking and that feeling of I failed because I didn't hit the optimal target. Instead, you'd be like, I stayed consistent within what I could actually manage today. There's no point feeling upset because you didn't manage what was never realistic anyway. But it is going to keep you consistent, and it is an improvement on what you would have done before. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be heading into spring, thinking about your summer holidays. And actually, I put this on a story recently, and you guys are going to some amazing places. You've got a lot going on, and that can be great motivation for staying focused on your fat loss and so on. And I'm all for it. But really, what I want to encourage you to do is to focus more on the actions and how they're making you feel good right now. Not just in 8 weeks' time when you're lying by a pool, but how they're making you feel now. We can get so caught up in, I want to lose weight by June, that we actually forget that we also want to feel good now. We want to feel better in our clothes, in our mood, in our confidence, and beating ourselves up and feeling like we're failing, feeling fed up is just having us feeling rubbish all the time. So stay calm, focus on what you can manage, your actions. The results will follow and it won't slow things down. But the bonus will be that you will also going to feel good in the summer as well. So amazing, right? And I know as well, for those of you that feel like you've got quite a lot to go and you can be like, no, I need to push really, really, really hard because I want to achieve this by then. I do want you to still focus on what you can do each day, because when you set that goal and the only thing you're focused on is I need to get to X weight or into that dress, then you can feel quite disheartened, because unless or until you get there, you can feel like you've failed. You can be asking yourself why you're not there yet. And that mindset doesn't necessarily move you forward. It can make things harder for sure. It just makes the journey kind of sit heavy on you. It makes it feel like you're failing all the time. So instead, shifting it to those actions again. Did I prep myself a balanced, healthy meal today? Did I wake up and have a glass of water in the morning? Did I manage to get in some movement today? Have I managed to plan for tomorrow? What you can manage. The evening routine, obviously being a favourite of mine. Every small action that you do and that you can be proud of is going to build that belief that you can change. And research backs this up. So people that are focused on process goals, so those daily habits, are more motivated and consistent than those that fixate on the outcome alone. So please try and avoid just feeling like that's where you've got to be and you're not there yet. Make it about what you can manage, the targets or the goals for day to day or week to week, whatever it is. And that is one of the reasons why in Ruth MacFit, I started the 3 Wins Forum. It's an opportunity for the clients to come in and say 3 things that went well that day and 3 wins for tomorrow. Those are the 3 things you're going to try and aim to do tomorrow. And even if one of your wins is, I've shown up and I've reflected today on what hasn't gone well, well, that is progress, because when you're aware of the things that are holding you back and you can think of strategies to help, then, awareness is the first port of call. But even if your win is having your glass of water, even if your win is, I'm feeling calmer, I'm feeling like the food noise is reducing, whatever it is, and then you can set those targets for tomorrow. It isn't about being perfect. It's about being present and intentional. So if we were to bring all of this word waffle that I've just thrown your way into a more concise point, then here's what I want you to remember. You want to plan for chaos, not calm. So thinking about what you can do on the craziest of days, build some non-negotiables that you can manage when life is super busy. Use if and then thinking. If I can't do this, then I'll do this. And then set yourself some flexible ranges instead of rigid targets. And then, by all means, use summer as motivation that helps you build those habits to feel better now. But don't make that the only thing you focus on. Instead, focus on actions over chasing the outcome. So, challenge for you. What is one small thing that you can put into place today that is going to make tomorrow easier? Write it down, share it on Instagram, tag me in it, or send it to me. I'd love to hear what you're going to do. And if you do want some support putting all of this into practice, then join the Ruth MacFit waitlist, because we are having a small intake on the 31st of March. We only have 5 spots available for our accountability boost program, and I know that there are definitely people already saying they want those. We've got 15 for Goal Getter and 20 for Workout 101. If your name is on the list, then you are going to be sent the link to join before anyone else. It will only go out to the main general public if there are spaces left available. So here's to going into summer feeling strong, not because of panic or restriction, but because we kept showing up. We didn't give up, day by day, one win at a time. And finally, thank you for spending this time with me. I will be back next week sharing some tips and stories and so on that are going to help you in your journey of change. You can find me on Instagram at Ruth MacFit. You can also take a look at our website, www.ruthmacfit.com, for more information. I would also love it if you subscribed and rated this podcast. Having a high review score helps other people find it. Thank you very much. Until next time, goodbye.